Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Time now for me to share with you on this Friday morning my blunt thoughts. And I've titled it, A Cathedral of Failure, the Sustained Rape of the Public Purse and Wrong Prioritization, Why We Bleed. We are Ghana at a crossroads, maybe the most turbulent one in our entire national endeavor. We are like the Israelites stuck at the Red Sea, or like an animal backed into a corner by a predator. The question we ought to ask ourselves is, do we have the Moses we need who will listen to the voice of God and with the Lord's power part the sea for us to go through to safety? Do we? Mr. President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo told us he had the men, and by extension, the women, to drain the swamp and save our beloved country from incompetence and poor leadership. Is this what we are witnessing, the anti-graft campaign, the competence and the excellent leadership we expected? You can answer that question for yourselves, people of Ghana. For me, some things have got me thinking, things I shall gladly share with you for your own reflection. The motion of censure brought against our Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, died an expected death yesterday. But it takes not away the fact that we are in an economic ditch, one into which our leaders have driven us. Mismanagement has brought us all to our knees in terms of our finances. A brutal and ugly haircut looms ominously over investors, and those who hold our country's purse strings are busily quoting the scriptures. Do you remember when former President Tata Mills, may his soul rest in peace, spoke in like manner? Our leaders today called him all sorts of names, yet today it is okay to quote every last verse in the Bible, when in fact our own recklessness left us in this lurch. How comical, how farcical, how hypocritical. And for all its plenty talk, is our government doing enough, after all, to lessen our burden and make life less of a struggle for the ordinary man, woman, and child? Is government implementing the kinds of policies that will raise our standard of living, especially in these very tricky times? Come with me, will you? Let's take a look. If you look at the size of our government, one of the areas that people have said can be looked at, Article 76 of the 1992 Constitution mandates the president to appoint a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 19 ministers of state. Guess what? Currently, Ghana has 28 ministers of state. And just take a look at this. Assuming Ghana had only 19 ministers, this is what we'll have to grapple with. The allocation to the 28 ministers currently in billions of Ghana cedis is 72.80 billion Ghana cedis. If the ministries were 19, the projection is 66.9. At least we would have savings of about 6 billion Ghana cedis. Put it into perspective, that's the same amount we wanted from the e-levy. Same amount. Now, if you bring it down, you would look at the amount, 5.81, just about 6 billion Ghana cedis. And this amount could service the domestic debts of SNIT, the insurance companies, and standard loans with a balance of 3.8 billion Ghana cedis. Interestingly as well, when you look at some of the stalwarts in our country who have spoken on this matter, recently we heard from former President John Agyekum Kufuor, who celebrated his birthday only yesterday. He says, you have to know what your ministers are doing, whether they are being positive or they are being average. You should have the courage to say, please, you don't belong here, go there, or perhaps sit aside. That's former President Kufuor. What did Professor Godfred Bockman have to say? We don't need this number of ministers to govern. There is a considerable room to cut. Now, before I say what I'm about to utter next, I would like you to watch this short video. It's a video that will send a message before I go on to talk about the Tanzanian example. What you just saw there is the Ajirigano Adma School. That is what the school looks like. I ask, what independence are we going to celebrate come March the 6th? The same over-dependence on donor support, on unbridled imports, on the largesse of others when we are more than capable of creating our own? Even worse now, we desperately need an IMF program. That independence, if I had my way, we would scrap that Independence Day celebration for a long time We have absolutely no business even discoursing on independence in our self-inflicted, extremely dependent state. No business at all. But having looked at what the Tanzanians are doing with their money, let us reflect deeply on what we are doing with ours, taxpayers' money. I want you to take a look at this. Look at the Tanzanians. In recent times, they have cancelled Independence Day. And guess what? 445,000 American dollars were allocated for the country's 61st Independence Day event. And this will now be used to build 8 dormitories in primary schools around the country. See why I showed you that spectacle of a school right here in Adrigano. Now, look at it. This is not the first time it has happened. In 2015, President John Magufuli, may his soul rest in peace, cancelled celebrations and diverted funds towards the building of a road in the commercial capital, Dar es Salaam. Not the first time. In 2020, he did the same and directed the budget to be used to buy medical facilities. Yet look at us. But let me go further. You see, the sum for all 4 of these critical areas, and I'll be painting a picture for you shortly. If you look at what we are allocating to our national cathedral, 80 million Ghana cedis for the year 2023. Let's take a look at what that means, basically. Now, the Student Loan Trust Fund was allocated just how much? 3 million Ghana cedis. When you look at how much was allocated to Plastic Waste Recycling Fund, 2.4 million Ghana cedis. The Green Ghana project was allocated just 2.5 million Ghana cedis. And water and sanitation projects were allocated 74.48 million Ghana cedis. Here's a breakdown. When you look at our national cathedral, we allotted 25 million Ghana cedis to it as a seed amount, seed money. The expenditure in 2021 was 142.76 million. In 2023, we are looking at an extra 80 million Ghana cedis. The total, 247.76 million. If you look at it critically, it means that when you put together these 4, you would get something around 83 or so million Ghana cedis. Yet we are willing to expend this on a national cathedral. And it doesn't end there. There are legal issues that have cropped up as far as our national cathedral is concerned. Waterstone Realty Limited has sued the Lands Commission for demolition of a 2-story multipurpose building previously located at the current location of the National Cathedral project. And we saw this coming. But how much are they asking for? $4.72 million. The Lands Commission in 2018 had compulsorily possessed and demolished their apartment for the construction of the National Cathedral project, according to the plaintiff. So look at how much we are expending on a national cathedral. It simply beats me, Ghana, for the way our leaders think. But we all day inside, after all. As I end, though, I would like to leave you all with 2 little reminders. A stroll down memory lane to warn you to beware, actually, which politicians you trust when they tell you this or that. We must become more discerning as a people so crooked politicians will not take us for fools. Our president today, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, called former President Mills Professor Doolittle in 2010 because, as he claimed, Professor Mills was failing at post. But who is doing the least now? Who is the real Doolittle? Karma, fellow Ghanaians, is like a wild dog that bites you viciously in the crotch when your time is due. In 2015, specifically on the 14th of September, Gabi Asare Otridako, our president's cousin, posted the following in a tweet. If running an economy was all about borrowing your way into an unsustainable debt hole, then any half-wit could be president. Our economy today is in a veritable debt hole. In fact, Deputy Finance Minister Dr. John Kuma himself has suggested, quote, we may have overborrowed. We are currently in an unsustainable debt hole. Tell me what that means. Do we have the right leaders at post? You decide. Voters in 2024 will determine where next our country will head. But between now and then, we must exact from our leaders, and I use the word exact because they refuse to willingly deliver what they must, the right policies and execution we need in order that our woes are not compounded even further and that our burdens are not added to. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I say all these things because I am extremely passionate about Amagana and what her future, intricately tied to ours, holds. These are my blunt thoughts for you this Friday morning, served raw, hot, unedited, undiluted. God richly bless our motherland and make her great and strong.